Hi everyone, I'm Allie Green. Thanks for joining me. We're going to be doing some Soma movement today, and we are going to practice some really fun somatic sequencing that prepares our body for some of the Pilates side work in mat class. And I'm also going to add some fun, challenging variations in. I have two mats because we are going to be on our knees. I like to have a little extra padding. And then also a yoga block. We're going to use this to build the ground up when we come up to some things where we're away from the ground. And it makes things a little bit easier. So we're just going to come down and rest your head on your arm and take a moment to pause and simply feel yourself. Feel your body on the ground. Notice your breath. Just taking a moment to really know where you are. If you don't know where you are, it's going to be very challenging to figure out how to get where you want to go. Now, the other thing that's happening right now is gravity. Gravity is coming through our body and it's creating tone. We are more fluid than structure. So when we allow that awareness and allow our body to move into this natural relationship, it creates a lot of support and alignment without us having to do much of anything, which is kind of nice. So from here, you're going to lengthen the legs out, finding that balance between your front and your back body. This is why we always get so wiggly wobbly. There might be imbalance from front and back, so we're just working on creating some good tone here. And then when you're ready, your arm can go up. We're going to be working through developmental patterns today, and we all do these in order to stand up and walk as babies. And getting to revisit them in our adult bodies can bring more balance, can bring coordination, integration. We'll be working from simple to complex, and we'll also be doing developmental sequencing. We'll start on the ground and then work our way up. So here's our first little somatic sequence. So just letting that arm float up and letting the leg float up and simply noticing the gravitational pull bringing your underside down into the ground, and then there's this anti-gravity, this space, this ground reaction force, and it floats us up. And then what if the bottom leg came up? So in order for this to happen, we actually have to get rid of holding, over-efforting. Relaxing any muscles that tend to be holding. And then lower everything down, and the arm is going to come overhead. And we can just hold the wrist. And then the leg comes up and down. So here's just regularly scheduled programming, with the focus being my underside yielding into the ground as opposed to lifting away from it. Your body wants to be in relationship to the ground. Let's do one more. That was about 8. Now we're going to challenge ourselves more with this whole open side and circling. So again, releasing effort. And let's do one more and then reversing it. So this is a challenge, maybe in a different way than you've experienced this work. And then lowering down. Arm can float up. Now we're going to do both legs, floating up and down. The underside of you moves into the ground. And let's do 2 more. Space is like an ocean, and the water can come up underneath you and help to create support for the legs. And now we can lift the body up. We've created all of this tone, which creates more ease and flow in the body for these challenging exercises like this one, where we might rock and roll all over the place. And reach. And returning down. We're going to move into side kicks. So let's come up. We're coming away from the ground, and we're going to move the legs forward. Now, we're going to focus on the navel. It's just going to stay nice and still. And you're just sweeping the leg forward and back. Sweeping forward and back. Navel's quiet. Noticing what is connecting to the ground, a little gentle push away. And what's in space? It's light, fluid, flowing. Let's do 1 more. And then bring that leg in and bend the knees. Coming up, we're just going to go to the other side to do that. So down you go. You may notice that there's a big difference from one side to the other as well. We're not particularly symmetrical beings. And again, just take a moment to know where you are. I feel my body. I feel it on the ground. Lengthening the legs out. And the hand can rest. Gravity taking you into the ground. So we don't need to lift up here. None of that house for a mouse. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is just a different way. And it's not only fun for you to explore things in a different way, your body likes it. Your body likes novelty, gets a lot out of variety. And then we're going to take that arm up. Float the leg, float the bottom leg, and anything that's in space, it's like how light and spacious can it get? And anything that's moving into the ground, just feeling that gravitational pull down, it's condensing. So the words I like to use are condense and expand. And then we lower, and that arm can reach overhead. And then just a point and a flex. So we're moving more in our fluid system rather than muscular system, even though the muscles are working. And again, this creates balance. Let's do 1 more. And then we'll circle. Becomes this little dance with gravity and space, circling around. My toes are soft. And reversing. If you feel like you're going to fall, try to soften and move in and down. Because if we're gonna fall, we want to fall closer to the ground. And then lower. Release the hand. And now both legs come up. The underside moves into the ground. It's the little yield and push away, reach and pull through the legs and this arm. And the tone is always changing. Our body's always in process. It's having a conversation with gravity and space and our breath, and we can add the upper body. I really do feel like sometimes we have a hard time with things because we're actually over-efforting And then when we feel like, oh, I'm not doing a good job, or it's like, oh, I need to try harder. And so we end up in this, sort of on this hamster wheel. And release. Bringing your hand underneath, you're gonna just bend the legs, push up. And we're gonna go into our side kick. So just bringing the legs forward and press. Good. And from here, you're gonna lift and the leg can go forward and reach. Again, the navel's gonna stay nice and quiet. When the navel is quiet, that means that the spine has a full connection and flow. So what underlies these developmental patterns of spinal and homologous, which is upper lower body, homolateral, right side, left side, and contralateral, crossing midline, is an even earlier pattern called navel radiation. And here's our last one. And returning in and coming up. And navel radiation is from the navel, pathways of energy finding their way from head to tail to the arms and to the legs. And that is in utero, but then we practice that all over again after we're born. So now we're going to use the block. So we can place it just on the side here, and we're going to come up to our knees. Little side bend over. And this is where it's nice because we build the ground up. You don't have to use this. You could come all the way down. For some of us though, that's really far, and this is increased, and it can be really hard to push those hips forward. So, or align, I shouldn't say push. So this gives us a little extra room. Now if we're up higher, the leg won't come up as high. And so just reaching that arm over and just lift and lower. And lift and lower. So here we are, homolateral. We're getting organized. We're very clear that we have a right and a left side. Let's do one more. And then from here, a little fun balancing practice. Here's a great place to think about that navel radiation and then coming in. Moving into spinal, and this is also that homologous. This is very organizing. It's very clear. And just expanding and condensing. Moving in the fluids. I also like to just call these big and smalls. One more. And let's finish moving inwards. Coming back home. And rolling up. We'll take the block to the other side. And the hand is just fingers out, pressing up. Feel the rooting through the bottom of the leg, and we take the leg out. So you can see that navel radiating pattern, and then you can feel it in yourself. And that's really what it's about. So this is more about just sensing and feeling these relationships. And that's really how our body builds itself, by sensing and feeling, and then making movement choices from that information. And we can do one more. And then coming in. Now, here we go with our little balance. Up we go. And then bringing yourself in. There's that relationship with gravity and space. So let's go back over to the first side. And let's add a little contralateral. Now, if you were doing this, well, you are doing this yourself, hopefully, and you notice that, wow, what I just did was really hard, then you might want to just stay there and practice that. This is the same thing if you're teaching. If you're seeing that, your class is maybe struggling with just that homolateral, then adding in contralateral, it's just going to get more disjointed. So again, by practicing these patterns, we can strengthen coordination. So same position, and you're going to float up. Now coming in and through and open and in and through and open. Let's do two more. In and through, and feel that yield, push, reach, pull. One more time, in and open. Now we're gonna find that balance, but it's gonna turn into lunge, push. There's that balance. Rotate, open, lunge, yield, push, reach, pull. Here are patterns. Here's contralateral, spiraling around that midline. Here's my homolateral. This is our last one. And return. Let's try it on the other side. Again, you might notice big difference from one side to the other, and that's okay. It's just information. So here we go. And reaching up, spiraling in, spiraling out, and in, and out. Move into gravity, space is supporting, and push away from the earth. One more time, and open, and then here we go. We're gonna find that moment of balance to lunge. A nice push back to that balance. That was kind of fun. And then in. And open. Little moment of balance. Little space hold. Ooh. And in. Let's do two more. I can't remember how many I did on the other side. And reach. Find your balance. So your body is getting so organized through this movement. And here's our last one. And in. Okay. So that was our upper body rotating. Now we're going to take lower body rotating. So we just start with the block on this side. And again, if you're like, I don't even think I need that, you don't need to use it. And we're just starting kneeling again. So again, if you need to pad up a little bit more, you can totally do that. And just going to be coming forward and reaching forward, coming back and crossing behind. Coming forward, reaching forward, coming back and behind. Now we could add an arm movement. This is going to add a level of coordination. Reaching, and then from here the arm can come down and around. Circling around. Now that hand on the yoga block, or maybe it's on the floor, it's got a really strong yield and push. And the elbow is breathing so that it's not locked. And that allows for your hand to talk to your shoulder. Because your spine finds its fluidity because of all of this beautiful support that your limbs are finding with gravity and space. And let's do one more. I totally didn't count. I have no idea. And maybe as you're doing this, you're like, hey, it'd be cool if I did this. And that can be really fun. You can start to add movements in. Actually, let's do that. That's really fun. And reach. Sweep around. So it's like, where can I go from here? How can we go? Because we know where we are. When we know where we are, oh, the places you can go. And around. Oh, this is the last one. I could get really carried away. My students know that. I'm like, oh, let's add this. So let's try that on the other side. Okay. So here we go. Just starting on our knees and coming up. You're gonna bring that leg forward, sweep the leg and the arm, and have a seat behind. Sweep and reach, sweep. Lot of three-dimensionality as we get into contralateral. And our body loves this. Really juicy. Reach and around and reach. And you could always pick up the pace. Just want to stay in body. So this always is an experience rather than a shape you feel like you have to make. And here we go, we're gonna add in that fun little rotation, and back up we go, and back, and rotation, and rotation. Yeah, so if you like this, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna teach this to my class, you know, I would say, hey, play with it, because you might come up with some really cool things. And if you do, share them with me. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. There's a big circle with the arm. One more. Last one to rotate and return. Now you just did all that contralateral. Just notice how you're feeling. It's like, yeah. Let's just, by going back to homologous and spinal. So simply just flexing over. Just taking a few breaths in. Pausing. Now we can reflect on where we've been. Sounds deep, huh? All that information going deep into yourselves. And then we can just roll up. And then this might be a fun place to do rolling like a ball. So also you could do your side kicks in that kneeling position as well.